Welcome back to Pork Chops, Rice, and Peaches. I'm Noah.
And I'm Richard.
Back to One Piece with the long-anticipated Skypiea video.
Yes, well, we started Skypiea on our live broadcast. So if you didn't see it, you need to go find it, because I can't tell you where to find it.
Some of it might be rehashed, but it was his first thoughts.
Well, I
Not
actually...
putting them in this video.
I drew a line in the notes. This is where I'm picking up, and I think 237 to... What did I write? 237 to 255?
Yeah, looks like it.
Oh, no, those are my old notes. Are they my old notes?
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
There's still plenty to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got a notebook going.
Oh yeah, I had to get a notebook.
Had to get a notebook going.
I had to get a notebook going. Well, I was doing my notes,
Yeah, on the computer,
typing them out, and it's just life has been so busy. So what I've been doing is I've been jotting notes as I read.
Okay.
All right. So no, actually, it's chapter 256 is where we're picking up.
Gotcha.
I think, yeah, because we talked about the whole
recap a little.
The whole concept of colonialism and conquering, and Gandorf admitting that Ganfor. There's a good start. He knows what he's talking about. Ganfor, admitting that they were the bad guys, but really not going into a lot of details. Yeah, and I think I remember talking about all of that.
Oh yeah,
right.
We'll come back around to everything. But
the giant snake that separated the crew.
Yes,
which turns out to be a very interesting.
Swallowed by it, and Mantra and the girl, and
yes. Although Mantra early on isn't really clearly explained, but Isa is the girl that really seems to have the strongest mantra, with the exception of maybe Enel or Enelru, Enaru, depending on which translation you want to go.
Yeah,
it's kind of interesting. It's so. I'm doing research after I'm done reading, and I type in Enaru, and the AI comes back with Enel. And then a long explanation of this translation difference, and I think it's an interesting thing about One Piece is you get this all the way through. Zoro, Zolo, potato, the whole bit. So, all right, I have a bone to pick. I'm going to start with my bone to pick.
You're going to start with your bone to pick.
I'm going to start with my bone to pick. So everybody knows I'm reading the big multi-volume sets.
Yeah.
Right? And we saw the stack of them in the last video.
In the live stream, yeah.
There's 6 of them. Oh, yeah, it was pretty big. Even you were surprised.
Yeah.
Okay. At the
box.
It was great. I have this. Okay, for the guy who
chat went wild.
For the guy who said, the odds are I'll never read a page of this, I now have a shelf in my library this wide with this stuff. Okay, so in the beginning of every volume,
there's characters.
Okay, there's a cast of characters that you're going to meet.
Yeah.
Right? And as Skypiea went on, I noticed that they would gray out the character that had already been defeated. So if you look on here, right, there's circles with characters' faces, and some have a white background and some are grayed out. And I noticed as we're going through here that as we defeated characters, everything was grayed out. It's kind of interesting.
So we got to pay attention. Oh,
right.
Oh, that's a nice little.
But here's the thing that I noticed also about this. Right down here, if you can see that, red-haired Shanks. Now look, I had forgotten you told me you'll see Shanks again, but not until a lot farther past. But as I forgot that. And as I'm watching all of this, I'm seeing all these characters getting grayed out, and red-haired Shanks is not. And so I had this false hope that we were going to meet him.
Yeah.
And we didn't.
I don't know why he's there, but we could check other books to see if there's just
he's always there in the corner. And I just thinking, Like, one of the coolest parts of the live action
Uh-huh.
was the last scene where Mihawk finds Shanks and
yes.
holds up the wanted poster,
Yes.
and Shanks is like, bring out the emergency grog, we're gonna have a drink, and, you know, come on, Mihawk, you can have a drink with us, you know, and so I was...
I'm too hungover to fight you.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, exactly.
I knew better
I told
than
you, when Shanks shows up, it's an event.
I know, but
Big deal.
I know, but
I mean, you saw it at Jaya.
But this gave me false hope.
I get it.
Yeah,
Get it.
So that's my bone to pick, and I don't know if that's an Oda choice or if that's an editor choice, or
I feel like it's an editor choice.
I don't know why he keeps getting included down there, and it might just be for the because some of this is just completing the backstory.
Yeah,
but I can't imagine someone picking up. I mean, this would be chapter 286.
I'm not knowing who Shanks is.
No, who picks up a story 286 chapters in? Without thinking, well, maybe it's something I should read.
To be fair, it could also be just a refresher for some people.
It could be.
It could be a refresher.
Well, it always helps me. I make the point of reading it.
That's good.
So anyways, there, I got my bone to pick out of the way.
All right.
Okay. So I had a couple of thoughts, just kind of summary thoughts when I finished Skypiea.
Okay.
Okay, this is going to make enemies.
Oh, no.
But my first thought was...
no.
Meh.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
It really was. It ultimately turned out to be a meh. But actually, right before that, I thought to myself, this is Robin's story.
A little bit. It's her first adventure with the crew, so yeah, there's a heavy emphasis on showing her capabilities, what she can do.
Yes.
And it's really cool that we get to see her do her thing and be an archaeologist, a legitimate archaeologist.
Yes.
It's really cool.
And the whole thing of her, which I just absolutely... So, still delighted by the absolute brilliant creativity of Oda. She's down in a hole and she's digging, and there's all these hands coming out of the wall, passing debris up to get it out of the way. I thought, wow, what a great way of using your devil's fruit power. If you're an archaeologist, it's the perfect one to have. And lore, Luffy ate a devil's fruit. He really didn't know what devil's fruit he was eating.
Yeah, he didn't even know it was a devil's fruit,
right?
One was.
Okay, so I mean, he could have ended up with Walpole's power.
Yeah,
right.
For all he knew, yes.
So do we find out when Robin ate her devil fruit? Did she know the power she was getting? Do we ever find that out? And can you answer that without ruining anything in the story?
I'm trying to remember, and I don't remember if we ever see her eat I don't think we ever see her eat the... Minor spoilers, I guess. I don't think we ever see her eat the fruit. I think when you delve into Robin's backstory, and I'm going to tread very lightly here, she already has her powers, I think.
Okay.
And that's all I'll say on that.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
A lot. I think the thing is, for a lot of people, it's this gets expanded on in a arc that's coming up soon. Is how people can figure out what their devil fruit is. Guess it's maybe minor. There are devil fruit encyclopedias in universe, so people can look it up and figure it out. But there's also, if someone finds one, or if they hunt one down, they can find a very specific fruit. They'll find a very specific fruit because they're looking for it, or they accidentally ate one and didn't realize it was a devil fruit. I mean, it kind of goes either way. Half of it's deliberate, half of it's not.
Can you have two devil fruit powers? If you don't know that you've eaten a devil fruit, can you accidentally eat another one and get two different sets of powers? And would you sink twice as fast if you get no water?
Where is it stated? First off, good question, right question. I'm not answering that question.
Okay.
Let's just do that. Let's just do that. All right, because I'm pretty sure your devil fruit questions get answered in Annie. I'm pretty sure they do a whole deep dive into devil fruits in Annie's lobby.
Okay. All right, now I can live with that. I can live with that.
So I'll let you discover that, all that. Yeah. Devil fruits.
Yeah, well, it's
They're
just
crazy. They're
an
wacky.
interesting
They're
thing.
goofy.
But I'm reading and I'm going through Skypiea, and it's really focused heavily on Robin, and I'm looking at it and I'm seeing how she's processing everything, and I suddenly realized, and I just went, she never calls anybody by their name.
Yes.
I was like,
that's true.
She calls Zoro swordsman. Mm-hmm. She calls Sanji cook. She calls Nami navigator. Right? And I noticed that. She referred to Luffy by Luffy, I think, 2 times in this arc. Yeah. I mean, I noticed this so much that I started going back and looking and double checking. And then when I got done with the entire arc, I did a very specific AI deep dive on this question. Does Robin ever call her shipmates by their first names? And the answer that I got back, and it was really interesting because I got an answer back, and I don't know if you've played with AI or not, but
I typically don't.
But up in the upper corner of the one I use, it will tell you how many different web pages that it consulted to come up with the answer. And this one was like 20 or 25 web pages. And it said, short answer, no. Now,
it's incorrect. She definitely does. So not in Skypiea.
I limited my search to Skypiea. Okay. Because I know what everybody told me about, don't research, don't spoil, I wrote my question. Yeah. To limit it down to a certain number of chapters. Okay. I limited the research to chapters. Okay. Right. I really don't want to violate this rule. Yeah. But I wanted to double check myself. Okay. Right. All right. And you see, so you've got someone who's new to the crew. Mm-hmm. So this is the first big adventure with the crew. Yep. You've got someone who appears to be very aloof. And I don't know if I do not yet know if this is just her nature or if this is a self-defense mechanism. If this is an emotional defense mechanism. So that's what I need to find out as we move forward in the story. Now, you have hinted in the past that I will really like her backstory. Mm-hmm. Okay.
I think you will really like her backstory.
I will.
Which is coming up rather quickly.
So I'm intrigued, but enough to just let this question go. But these were the questions that were going through my mind, and then as she's looking for these poneglyphs, she's clearly disappointed at the end of this episode. She clearly isn't getting what she wants. And I felt the disappointment. Mm-hmm. I felt the disappointment. I felt the disappointment for the character. Yep. Yeah. Which, of course, just makes me go, wow. How? In this? It's so silly there, Yep. And so, but I really did, but I was, did we see Robin casually snap the neck of one of the 50 warriors? It looked like in one of the fight scenes early on, chapter 258. 2 hands, neck snap. And she did it. I think so. She did it
something like that.
Casually.
She tells Usopp straight up, "What's your specialty? Assassination."
Yeah, she does.
She does. Out of the.
She's clearly killed before, and it clearly doesn't bother her.
On the scale of willing to kill versus unwilling to kill, you got Luffy probably could kill someone. Typically won't, but probably could. Yeah. Nami probably would, more likely than Luffy. Zoro.
Oh yeah.
is just
Not
is
gonna
being held back,
Right.
and then you have Robin.
Right.
Who's
Yeah.
like,
Okay. Yeah.
I'm gonna snap your spine. Breaking spines is another thing she does.
Oh, nice.
Ooh. Well, it's a
Yeah.
you'll see. You'll see. And depending how much medium you watch, it depends.
Well, so
But it's very
So Robin is this really intriguing character because there's so many questions, and he's done such a good job of not giving us her entire story right up front. So now we start noticing these things and figuring them out as we go.
Yes.
I like that.
It's a very good showcase of her at the current stage in the story.
Of her abilities.
A good introduction to this character,
Yes.
their abilities, their strengths, their weaknesses, and
with
her-
all the craziness that takes place in this Sky
her
Island
demeanor.
universe.
She's very calm throughout all of it.
She is.
She's very calm in the face of overwhelming...
She's very comfortable being alone.
Yes.
Which is exactly what I was, really,
Yeah.
about to lead into. While everyone else is panicking in this environment, she's going off by herself, and she's perfectly comfortable. She's perfectly at ease.
Defaulting to what she does best. Archaeology and that.
Right.
She's defaulting to that, the thing that she enjoys. So she's
Okay,
doing that.
you probably can't answer this, but when I was reading it, I said she's defaulting what she knows, which is survival mode.
I mean, that too.
Okay,
She
right.
was legitimately doing survival tactics.
Yeah,
She was out there. She's like, all right, we're separated. Cool. Resources, shelter. I mean, that's legitimately what she was doing. So, yeah.
Yeah. So ultimately, interesting character, and I'm reading along through all of these chapters, and I'm thinking, okay, so obviously the big fight is going to be between Luffy and Nehru, and like, okay, so how are we going to get there? And then they're going to fight, and then Nehru's going to get the upper hand for a little bit, and then Luffy's going to figure out how to defeat him, and he's going to defeat him, and that's exactly what happens. So,
with a big twist.
But ultimately, that's what's going to happen, right? And so, what I've started to notice in the last arc in this one is it looks like we're going to get some real gems at the end of the arc, and that's where the real meat and potatoes of Robin's story came in this arc.
I'll tell you for the story. The big lore and story stuff. The beginning of arcs and the end of arcs is always the hype because it's establishing something, and then the middle of the arc is where you'll get some character moments, some last stands, some backstories that just tug at you. That's where you get that. But in terms of the plot progression, pretty much happens at the beginning of the arcs and at the end of the arcs.
Right.
The middle is just a bridge between the two.
Right.
And it's space for that other material. The exploration of the themes.
Sure.
The backstories.
Sure.
And the character moments. Yeah.
So, I'm... You made mention when we were doing the first video of the theme of colonialism, and I know that you're going to talk about it. I'm not going to
mention it on the phone. Well, I'm gonna touch on it.
Right.
Yeah, but actually, I actually, as I was reading into it and watching some videos on Skypiea, so I'll be honest, Skypiea it's a hard one. Like, I appreciate Skypiea in retrospect.
Okay.
It's kind of a hard one to go back and really dig through when researching for a video.
Okay.
But I did. And I think I found an angle on this that I really enjoy. So I'm excited.
Well, so is it an angle you can talk about without spoiling, or is it one that
it's going to be difficult? But yeah, I'm challenging myself with this one.
Okay.
But
Well,
I'll get to it. But
Anyway,
hit us with your thoughts.
Imagine if you are people living in the sky. First of all, I have got to say, Oda's creativity about sailing the skies is just brilliant. It's such incredible three-dimensional thinking. And in terms of the actual brilliance of his creativity, I have to appreciate sending them up.
Yeah.
And in everything that takes place up there.
Yeah.
It's just incredible.
Yeah.
And so it's not so much what takes place up there that it's taking place up there.
Yeah.
Is what really has captured my attention.
Yeah.
And so I love that. Imagine you live in the sky and suddenly land appears out of nowhere.
Yep.
Shoots up down below and, you know, the concept of manna, you know, coming down from the sky, the blessing from above that's sent down. Well, this is the blessing from below that is sent up. And if you're living in the sky and suddenly you got this, wouldn't you think that this was a gift from the gods that was given to you to use? Wouldn't that be the natural reaction?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think for a lot of humanity, if something like that happened.
Sure.
I mean, if it was the reverse, they literally would think that it came from the gods because it would come down from the heavens.
Right.
So, yeah.
So ever since
it's a very, we talked about it on the phone, it's a very interesting flip of, because typically when people talk about like colonialism, and this is the one where people talk about colonialism, and it's because it's in reverse. Instead of the invaders going somewhere, their target comes to them essentially. So it's a complete role reversal. So it kind of makes you think about it.
Well, and so, but because of that, the minute I heard you say that word, I mean, I don't think I said it out loud, but I was like, I'm not buying that.
Well, no, you did, because you when you heard the word, you thought about it in its literal definition, which is traditionally, as dictated by history, group of people travel to new place, invade, conquer, settle. Right. Instead, it's new place comes to old people and they assimilate it. Right. Which is it's almost it's reverse. So
well, in the arrival aspect of it, but you know, I mean, you're still talking about you know, going into a different culture and then bringing your cultural values and imposing them on other people.
Yes. So and that's the key.
Well, that's an aspect of it. But as I'm looking at it, I'm just thinking to myself, it's not a one-on-one comparison to the traditional colonialism that we know of in the history of mankind. Yeah. And I just thought, what do you do with this stuff when you believe that you've been giving this blessing that you have something to do with?
Yeah. Again, it's Oda. I said this in I think at Alabasta. Oda presents these questions, and then
lets you deal with them.
Lets you answer it for yourself. And now, ultimately, in this one, it's kind of answered, but it's answered in a way that's like the everyone wins in the end scenario.
Yes, it does.
He resolves it in the very much the everyone wins scenario, which is a route that is a decision, because there's multiple paths you can take in this, and ultimately this was one of those I think narrative themes, if you were going to explore that topic, that it would have been unsatisfying to not choose a route and an answer to go with. Sure. I think it would have been, you know, as a narrative and as an idea to explore as a concept, it would have been unsatisfying if we didn't at least arrive at one idea. Yes. Arrive at one idea. So
well, and then as we're sitting here talking,
because you got one of the other, you got one of three options essentially in the most basic form. You have the Skypieans hold on to it and keep it. Right. You have the Shandians take it back completely, and the Skypieans completely leave and give it back to them, or you have collaboration. You know,
and collaboration is ultimately the happy ending.
It's the everyone wins ending. Right. You know, it's the everyone wins ending. So. As that topic gets explored I think he does it. I think he does similar things in other arcs better.
Okay.
Specifically, when we revisit Fishman. Love when we revisit Fishman.
Okay.
I really like it.
There was an anger to the Fishman that there was an anger that was unresolved.
So that's all I'll say on that.
Okay.
Not that that's a one-to-one comparison of what gets explored in both, but I think with the Fishman it just gets a little more time to breathe, because it's kind of pushed to the background a little bit. Like there's this big war going on, this big battle going on, but it's ultimately kind of being swayed by Enel. Not like Enel's just kind of like, yeah, they're going to attack now, and these guys are going to attack, and they're all going to do this. So it kind of, having Enel as a presence there kind of overshadows that entire narrative theme and concept. But luckily for us, there's other narrative themes and concepts being explored in this section, in this arc, that are kind of fascinating for their implications on the story moving forward.
I will offer this one thought. The perspectives that we bring, I noticed this in myself. I noticed this in my own reaction to the story in this arc. I noticed this in my reaction to our telephone conversation. And honestly, we rarely talk about this stuff. That was a one-off. Notice how much we bring our own biases into the conversation. And that's all I'm going to say on it. That's all I'm going to say on it, is because the perspective and the initial reactions are an absolute reflection of who we are and how we see the world. Right? So that was it. I took special note early in the story of Ganfor saying, when man finds something useful, he will always find a way to use it for evil means. That's a truth. That's just a truth bomb. I laughed in chapter 258 when Wiper says to Luffy, "I'll just take you down," and Luffy says, "Now you're speaking my language." You know, the absolute joy of having the fight. Yeah. Zoro in 259 defeats but does not kill Braham, and walks away saying, "Sorry about that. I don't have anything against you."
Yeah.
There's this whole, like, I'll fight you if I have to, but
Zoro's just kind of like, I'm just trying to find my way back to the ship, guys. Stop getting in my way.
That's exactly it. That is exactly it.
Zoro was great in this. Zoro was great. His Tarzan yell early on.
Oh, yes. A special note I made. Chopper versus Menorah head guy. Because I took a look at the artwork and I said, that's a menorah. That is a menorah growing out of his head. I looked up in my karate class the other night, and I looked across the dojo, and I saw this young girl standing there, and she had Conus's hairstyle. She had two little sticks with the balls growing up out of her hair.
That's cute.
And it was, and it wasn't bad. There was nothing wrong with it, but I just looked across and I went, Conus. That's how much One Piece has, invaded my daily thoughts. Chopper saving one of the 50 warriors. Chopper showing that saving lives, that medicine, that healing people is more important than defeating people. It's just showing an aspect of his character. I thought it was good, but in this middle of this fight, he thinks to himself, everyone is always bailing me out. No one relies on me. Which is a reflection of his lack of self-confidence and his lack of awareness of how much people have just accepted him as one of the crew, and they do kind of rely on him. Maybe not in the same way. It's funny how value and worth is defined through power and ability to fight, as opposed to being defined by your God-given gifts. Your gifts.
No, just
and your
that's almost a. I just had this thought. It's almost a meta narrative on power scaling. For those of you,
Okay.
Because Chopper's worth, and now that you mention it, moving forward, I'm thinking about Chopper's character arc, and Chopper. Yeah, no, okay, that makes sense. I'm not spoiling that, but yeah, Chopper's value is in his big value. Like he becomes a formidable force. Because the Straw Hats have to. They go up against bigger and more tough opponents. And Chopper has a really cool fight in Wano, which is so fucking far. Far away. Yeah, but the dude stands up to some pretty top tier heavy hitters.
I believe it.
In some arcs. And not defeating them, just holding his ground. But he's always at his peak when he's taking care of people or healing people mid-fight or finding the solution or finding the cure or doing whatever. So, yeah, you just gave me that. It was it's something that I guess had been back here and it just never fully realized.
Until right now. I don't know if you can see it on camera at home, but when I'm sitting here and I see the reaction you just had and I can see the wheels turning, I can see it.
Yeah.
And then when I see everything click into place, he looks at the camera and says, I'm not going to answer that.
Yeah.
I've gotten used to that. It really annoyed me the first time you did it, I think. And I understood why, but now I'm like, yeah, okay. Yeah. This will pay off in the future.
It will pay off in the future.
That's the way I look at this. I'm investing in something that the payoff is long term.
Yes.
While enjoying the journey along the way.
Yes.
So let's see.
And it happens in little pieces as you go, where you're like, yes, progress.
Right. Yeah, exactly. 263, he says, Chopper says, it's time I stepped up and raised the pirate's flag, which is really kind of a cool thing to say.
Cool callback to Luffy and Hero Look.
And then he says, I'm a monster, I'm strong. It's like, yeah, embrace it. I would prefer if you don't call yourself a monster, but I'll take it because you're accepting yourself and then moving forward with it, which, and so he defeats Gadatsu. Claims he's a real pirate.
Yep. And then drinks adorably from his little canteen.
Yes, yes, he does. And
it's so cute. He's just like, I did it.
And in the middle of the fight, he does that, which now, I mean, when it was first introduced, it was a big focus point. And then he does it in the middle of the fight, and it's like almost casual in passing.
Well, yeah, because the first time it's a breakdown showing the reader what he's doing.
Exactly.
Now that that's been established, and he just does it, you kind of get the perspective that he's doing it fast, which means he's really good at using the ability.
So now the book before this one is loaded with tabs. I didn't bring it.
Yeah.
And the reason,
obviously.
The reason I didn't
do it.
The reason I didn't bring it is I really wasn't thinking I wanted to go through like a chapter by chapter breakdown of everything because I've just got these larger observations, right? Isa having the powerful mantra. The whole time we're following her character, I knew that there was something coming with her. Otherwise she wouldn't have been in the story. And this whole concept of mantra and being able to read the thoughts, that's a very interesting way of allowing your villain to predict your enemy's move, or the Straw Hats' moves.
Yeah.
They've got to overcome that obstacle.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. I liked it. All right.
So like Luffy just going,
I did. We're gonna get to that. I was thinking about that in the car on the way over here. His ability to go stupid. That is exactly how I described it. His ability to just go stupid, to turn his brain off and to make himself completely unpredictable.
Yep.
Reactive.
Yep.
Rather than strategic.
Yep.
All right, I'll take it. I wrote a note here, and I wish I put more thoughts to it because I wrote Isa's One Piece's Charles Xavier.
Cerebro. That's why.
Yeah, exactly. The ability to be able
to my Straw Hats.
To be able to figure out how many people are alive just by
too much Marvel Rivals lately.
Hearing voices.
Been on that grind.
Vassal
That ranked grind.
Ohm to Chopper. Humans were born hoping for happiness and destroy each other in their pursuit of it. Killing all humans is one path to salvation. You know, and I thought...
It's a very AI, like, Skynet approach.
No. That's the very argument of James Spader's villain in the Marvel universe.
Ultron, yeah.
Ultron. That's Ultron's argument
of Ultron in most.
Yeah.
It's the argument of most inhuman, purely logical beings.
Yes.
You know, I mean, robots and Skynet type stuff is the obvious example, but I mean, yeah, if someone's just looking at it with pure logic, they're looking at they pursue happiness and they don't care who they stomp to get it.
It's the big argument between Jean-Luc Picard and Q in Star Trek: The Next Generation is arguing for the value of humanity even with all of our failings.
Yeah.
So you can tell as I went back through my notes, I highlighted the ones that I thought, this is the one that sticks out for me. The things that I really like. Ohm sounded like a James Bond villain. Killing all humans is one path to salvation. I was thinking of Stromberg and his desire to build the underwater paradise.
Yeah.
Who's the guy who went up into space? He had the same plane.
Moonraker's guy, yeah.
Okay, so we find out that Enel ate the rumble fruit. I literally laughed out loud. I did. Okay, he's human. All right, I got it.
Yep.
What is a Logia type?
So, So we talked about this last time.
Yeah, we did, and I forgot.
3 different types.
Yeah.
You have Zoan.
That's the animal.
Yep.
Okay.
Logia and Paramecia.
Oh, that's right. We did. We did.
So Logia is essentially there's a substance, and your body is now made of it.
Oh,
and
gotcha.
you can project it.
Okay.
So like
gotcha.
Ace. Logia.
Fire. Right. Okay.
Yeah. Zoan. Animal.
Right.
Paramecia. Buggy. It doesn't fall into the other 2. Paramecia is kind of the catch-all for whatever powers don't fall into the other 2.
And so Luffy is Logia because he's rubber? Substance?
I don't remember how they classify it. I believe...
Help us.
Because the difference is, his body is kind of perpetually rubber, whereas Ace can be solid. He is not perpetually fire.
Right.
He can make his body fire.
Well, Enel is...
He's not entirely lightning.
Right. He can be substance.
He can be substance. Right. And I think that's the difference. Luffy can't do that. So I think technically Luffy falls into Paramecia.
Interesting.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Oh, I'm just thinking to myself
there. Gamu is, I believe, a Paramecia.
Predicting a debate in the comments section.
Yeah.
Which I will thoroughly enjoy reading. Zoro has a nice battle with Ohm. It was in that chapter that it really made me realize that Enel was being saved for Luffy.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time thinking about the quote that Robin read in 272. Hold the truth in your heart, keep your mouth silent. We are the ones who weave history with the reverberations of the great bell.
Where's that?
It's right here. It's in chapter 272. And
I'm going to come back to that.
Okay.
I'm going to come back to that. That's a great line.
Golly, I had so many different things fire in my brain in reaction to that. And you can see a couple of them right here. And I don't even know if, I just like, I really don't want to go down that road, but it was just, I'll tell you this. Good writing provokes a reaction.
Yeah.
And when your brain just starts firing with ideas, then you know you're reading something that's worth reading.
Yeah.
And that quote, I don't know what to do with it. I don't know where to go with it.
I'm going to use that. I'm going to use that in my thing here.
Okay. It's all yours. I'm not even going to pursue it.
When we get there.
You know, then we had the trope of the bad guy eating the apple.
Oh, it's always
which
great.
is, you know.
he's the bad guy
if he's eating an
apple.
yeah. You know.
Your phone's going off.
My phone is going off. Is there? Pardon me while my phone goes off.
Oh, Mama Peaches.
Yeah, it's Mama Peaches. Hey, Mama Peaches, how are you?
Good. Are you still at Noland?
I am. In fact, the camera is watching as we speak.
Okay, I'll let you keep going.
It's Mama Peaches.
Right.
No, what do you got?
Call me when you're on your way home.
Okay, I will do that.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. Sure, I was hoping for something witty, and I didn't get it. You know? It was boring. It was call me when you're on your way home. Did we actually have an exhaust pipe on a waiver? We actually did.
Yeah, I think,
right.
Yeah, very sure. Pretty sure there were. I think that's what propelled it. It's what the dials channeled out of.
Channeled through the exhaust pipe?
I think so.
All right. I loved the big lightning boat being called El Thor. That was kind of fun.
The big lightning boat? No,
Yeah,
that was the Arc Maxim.
Arc
I
Maxim?
believe.
What was it? It was something to do with lightning.
The boat that his attack is El Thor.
Yeah, so yeah.
His big attack.
Right.
But the ship that NL is using is called something else. I believe it's called the Arc Maxim.
Yeah, the ship. But I just like the big, Thor lightning hammer. I just noticed.
Okay.
That's all. That's all I'm saying. Enel trying to return the land people down below, destroy Skypiea, find his paradise, claims he's following the laws of nature. I found myself rooting for the reunification of the island. The physical reunification of the island. I did.
Yeah.
Kind of disappointed when it didn't happen.
But also the Shandians are adapted to life on clouds now. If they went back down, they'd be dealing with everyone in Mocktown. They'd be dealing with the Bellamy's. They'd be dealing with, because that's a part of the same island.
It is. But it would have been satisfying.
Yeah, it would have.
It would have been satisfying.
It would have been satisfying.
Right.
What'd you think of the backstory with Noland? Do you have stuff on it?
Well, this is all of my notes on the little strips. Yeah, I think we're getting a little bit ahead of where I'm at.
Oh,
the whole idea. No,
yeah, because that's a big.
Okay, so he's a friend to Kalgara.
Yes.
All right. Why did I note he's got an X scar on his left shoulder? Why did that stick out in my head?
That?
No,
From Alabasta?
No, one of the. No? Yeah, I don't know.
What are you looking at?
I'm looking at my notes. What is it on that backstory that you want to?
Oh, I just wanted to know what your thoughts on it were.
I found it very interesting.
Okay.
I was happy to see that Noland is not the big liar that history recorded as him. I was happy to see that Mont Blanc Cricket was rewarded. I was happy to see that there was peaceful coexistence, and things fell apart because of a misunderstanding.
Yeah.
But that's very human.
Yeah.
Misunderstandings are the heart of almost every argument.
Yeah.
So it was fun.
Yeah. Okay.
Answered a lot of questions, and it was fun. Okay. And it also led me to believe. The minute I read that, I was like, yeah, okay. People down below, Mont Blanc Cricket's going to know the truth. The ringing of the bell, and So yeah, I liked it.
Okay.
It didn't have any huge impact on me. It wasn't, There's other things that I was looking at in here, things that really caught my attention that, because I have to go back to where I was at here. We get a deeper dive into Ganfor as Kami, considering his guilt for invading Shandia and taking their resources.
Well, I think perpetuating because the invasion was centuries ago. I don't think Ganfor was alive. I think he was just the most recent Kami before Enel.
Yeah, it could be, but the fact that he's even realizing that that's their history. So we got introduced to the Sea Prism, a stone that sucks the power of those with the devil fruit.
Yes.
And the great comment, the powerful can be so vulnerable. Mm-hmm. That's a great line. Mm-hmm. Okay. So, and I said to myself, oh, we have something that's planted that's going to come to play later in this story.
You just summed up the entirety of Skypiea. Congratulations in that one sentence. Oh, we have something planted that's going to come back later in the story.
Well, you know what?
See what this is, and this is why Skypiea is so hard to talk about, especially in retrospect when you're not caught up. That's the thing. That's what's going to make this video very interesting, and it's why I had such a hard time figuring out what I wanted to say about Skypiea, is because I'm gonna have some hot takes in a little bit, but like there's a lot of stuff here that doesn't immediately prove its worth.
Right.
But there's a lot of little stuff that I'll give you a list of things to just pop in the back of your head. And a couple that are obligatory, mandatory for me to talk about. But
this is one of the obvious ones.
Okay.
Right? I thought it was a great. I thought it was a great introduction into the universe.
Well, they used it in Alabasta, too. The cage was made out of sea prism.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. Yes.
Yeah.
I forgot.
But it comes back into play.
Okay.
It is incredibly... this becomes a... I wouldn't say it's a big thing, necessarily. It's a very common thing.
Gotcha.
Moving forward.
Well,
it's an easy way to shut down someone with devil fruit.
For me...
Handcuffs.
Right,
weapons. Yeah. Smoker's stick is topped with sea prism later on, I think.
Okay, all right.
It's just like, minor spoilers, fine.
But
I'm just popping off with those today.
If you introduce it once and then it's easy to forget about it, you bring it back a second time, and the way it was brought back, it was almost, for me, like a first introduction.
There you go.
So it's a good thing that it was brought back. Frequently in front of the chapters, there's a quote from Oda from somewhere in his writing over the past time.
Yeah.
I was laughing out loud when I read this.
Okay. The last one made you cry, so...
It did. Just to be clear, I'm always writing silly things in my comments these days, but in my youth, there was a boy who was always being praised by all the adults in the neighborhood. He was a genius when it came to schoolwork and was great at every sport.
The guy down the road, wasn't
That would be my friend Tanaka.
Yeah.
Please enjoy Volume 30.
Yeah! Didn't even need to read it.
It was hysterical. It was so funny.
Fantastic.
I read that. That's one of the things that I like about this. Also, there's a return of coloring pages in here.
He's just awesome. Oh, that's great. He's just got such a good sense of humor.
Right.
He's got...
So the chapter cover art, we get all of Wapol and his adventure with developing the toy factory. Mm-hmm. Then we move to the Ace search for Blackbeard.
Yep.
That was just a delightful story to follow through the entire
Wasn't it?
of Skypiea, where you just get this whole separate story that you get to follow in one panel. It was about this time that I noticed that Robin was only using titles and not names. Mm-hmm. So we get the rubber versus lightning battle. I realized that was kind of...
It was fun.
Right. Death Peia was the title of chapter 281. That was brutal. I read that. I was like, holy cow. And that's where the space out came, that chapter.
Yeah.
That's where he just went, duh.
Yeah.
I'm gonna fight.
And this is Sanji get his thanks I needed a light. Because that is a fan favorite moment.
Thanks, I needed a light.
He tanks an attack from Enel, just one of those
L4s.
And
then
he's just like, thanks.
Yeah.
But it goes really hard. It is a badass, and then he collapses. But it's like that's That's a dope.
It is.
That's a dope moment of defiance that really gives Sanji a cool, badass moment of like, it's a Zoro type, rip off the bandages. How are you still fighting? You know, when Arlong rips that off.
Yes.
And he sees how bad, it's got that same energy of like, whoa.
It certainly reinforces the concept that he's going to give it all and he's going to leave it all on the battlefield. He's not holding anything back. I didn't expect to see him. I didn't expect to see any of the characters that were out return until after the arc was over. Mm-hmm. I thought that was going to be the resolution after the falling action, that they all come back. Okay. So that they came back in the middle of that, battle, that final battle. I was genuinely surprised.
Okay.
I do like it. In a lot of our videos, you'll hear me say, I kind of had this one figured out.
Yeah.
I do enjoy it when I'm wrong.
Okay.
I do enjoy when I think I've got it.
Yeah.
And then
it surprises
you. And then it surprises me.
Okay.
And so as I was watching, and I forget which one, Daredevil. Because I started watching it.
Yeah.
And at the end of the first episode, I was like, oh, this, and this. This is how it's going to go. And then episode 2 starts and it's like, oh, I couldn't have been more wrong. Right away.
All right,
it was like,
there
great.
you go.
Because then I get to be surprised.
It's very rare these days when you are.
So let me see here. I was very surprised that there were wings on the Shandians when they were down below. I didn't understand that whole wing thing. I didn't.
There's probably some...
Born with wings.
Probably some deeper lore. Someone's going to be theorizing about it. And it's not going to be us.
Yeah, so Shandor was destroyed 800 years prior to the story. It was discovered by Admiral Montblanc 400 years later, and then the current battle takes 400 years after that. So this whole problem's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
Okay. I was expecting Luffy to be typical Luffy, I'm going to destroy you, I'm going to kick your butt the whole bit. And then Luffy announces, I'm going to ring the bell.
Yes.
I'm not going to destroy Enel, I am going to ring the bell. Yep. It's almost like Montblanc Cricket. What does he call him? Pointy head guy?
Yeah.
He's like, pointy head guy, I'm going to do this for you. He's put a whole heck of a lot on the line for the purposes of ringing a bell.
Yep.
So that the people on the Blue Sea hear it. They know that Noland isn't a liar. He knows that Montblanc Cricket will hear. Luffy shouting up, don't underestimate me, earlobes. I had to stop and go back and look at artwork for that one. It was so stinking funny. Don't underestimate me, earlobes. That is really good.
I love when Luffy nicknames people.
Isa, can you hear him, Mr. Raccoon? And Chopper screaming, I'm a reindeer. Look, horns.
Yep.
There's a lot of little... I'm not missing the humor now. There were a couple arcs back where I was just missing the humor. And everything.
Yeah.
I'm getting it now.
Yeah, I think you are. How'd you like Enel's face after he goes all out against Luffy, and then Luffy's just... Because that face of, like, it's the eyes popping out... very Looney Tune cartoony.
Yeah,
It's a classic.
I vaguely remember seeing it.
There's several times where you get faces like that in One Piece. They're rarely used, but they're used in big moments like that, and they're fan favorite moments essentially.
Okay,
people love them because they're just kind of goofy.
I'm trying to see if I can find it. The backstory is a lot.
Yeah, the backstory is a lot.
It's a lot. It was really fun. It's just fun to read.
Yeah,
and
it's a nice break.
And he's got a nice kumquat growing out of his head, just like his descendants.
Yep.
I'm trying to find the picture that you're looking for. You get a lot of the strong fighting pictures that I like.
Yeah.
There's a tremendous amount of them. The snake just becomes more central part of the story than you would otherwise suspect or realize. I kept waiting for the Jack and the Beanstalk reference to pay off, and I got the feeling that the Beanstalk was called Jack.
The Beanstalk was called the Jack.
Jack, yeah.
And it was just a reference to Jack and the Beanstalk.
I was truly disappointed. I'll just be totally honest with you. I was truly disappointed. If you can...
It's earlier than that. It's probably in the previous book. But
it might be.
It'll have been flashed on screen. Everyone knows what I'm talking about anyway.
So what I was really interested in the Poneglyphs,
Oh, geez, long range starts in this book, doesn't it?
At the end of this,
Oh my God, it does.
Robin hasn't found her answers. Usopp traded for dials. That was brilliant.
Yes.
That was brilliant.
That was legitimately brilliant.
There was
rubber band!
Yeah, exactly. Which is going to break, Yeah. I'm going to be very disappointed. And I remember thinking to myself, I wonder if he'll learn how to tie the ends together to make the rubber band last longer. The ancient weapon that bears the name of the god Poseidon and its location. Robin, another weapon. And then it's different from the Pluton in Albasta. So there's another plant. Are we going to see more of that in the future? I'm assuming we're going to. And then I hereby guide this document to its end, Pirate Goal D. Roger. And I was like, here we go.
Yep.
He's been here. He's the guy who visited. He's the guy who,
Ganfor talked about.
Yep. And you get all of that. Ganfor says that Roger was there 20 years earlier.
Yep.
And it's like, okay.
Isn't that a great little...
It was fun. It was just fun, right? It was just fun. And of course, with the D and all the connections that we've established in previous videos, now it's just like, okay, this is fun. Let's just see where this is going. And I realize I've got 1,200 chapters to go before I get the resolution. But then we learn there's two types of poneglyphs, the information stones and the location stones. And then Robin discovers that, like Goldie Roger, she has to guide the poneglyph information that she has read so far to the end of the Grand Line to Raftel. And I'm thinking, okay, so now it's interesting. Robin has a purpose. Robin has a goal. Robin has a goal that's different from the crew. It's like, okay, and then we have this big question, what is Raftel? If Raftel has been introduced before, I don't remember it. But it's been introduced here it's strong enough that it's going to stick now. Ganfor made the connection between Monkey D. Luffy and Gold D. Roger.
Okay, hold on. Give me a second. Give me a second.
Oh, laughed out loud. The crew is talking about all the different things that they can buy with the treasure that they stole from the snake's belly.
Crocus.
And all Zoro wants is booze.
Crocus.
Crocus?
Crocus, the lighthouse dude with Laboon, mentions Raftel. I had to verify that.
Oh my goodness,
all the way
that
back
going
there,
back a ways?
He mentions Raftel. He mentions it. Yes.
Wow. That's one of the tricky things about reading this is there's
just so much. But that's why they That's why Oda is smart enough to reintroduce these concepts.
Yeah. And so with this one, it's it's going to be a stronger connection. So anyway, I took the most important notes really here towards the end. We are introduced to or reintroduced to Admiral Aokiji. The greatest power in the Navy, holds a reward poster of Luffy. Not an honest fellow in the whole family. And then that's his comment. Not an honest fellow in the whole family. And then I write, what does that say about Garp? Now, of course, I'm not supposed to know about Garp because, because it was a live action conglomeration.
Because it's not
you know,
revealed until
much later. You said about
actually,
chapter 800?
No.
No?
Until chapter 4?
400? Oh, that's coming right around the corner.
No, it's like 300. It's sooner. It's like soon when Garp actually fully enters the story. It's not long till Garp comes in. Yeah. No mind's saying that just because obviously live action. But let me
But this right here, in fact, I still enjoyed that line. I dog-eared the page on this one. What are we gonna buy? We're gonna buy a bronze statue. We're gonna buy all this other stuff. Zoro, booze. Man, booze. So I think I'm about chapter 305, 302, something like that.
Okay.
So
sorry, my bad. Then it's probably closer to chapter 400 then. But yeah.
So Skypiea, a lot of great information, a lot of stuff planted, a lot of fun activities. I was not surprised that Conus's dad survived.
Yeah.
I just, no
one dies.
Yeah, exactly.
Dies.
And so. I'm really looking forward to the payoff.
Yeah, so here's what I'll start with. All right. Something very important to keep in mind, something that's been reintroduced and that's been refreshed in recent years, is the fact that One Piece was only supposed to last about 5-ish years. And if I'm not mistaken, if this says... This was initially... This was in the early 2000s. He was a little over the 5-year point, but it was already successful enough that he could extend it. But this was still around the time where he was planning on cutting it short within the next, wrapping it up within 5 years. So by the time Skypiea was going on, he was mentally preparing for the end, but then he just kept coming up with ideas, and they just kept letting him write whatever he wants.
Well, the quote I read you was from 03, so that gives you that's like the 7-year point. Start in 96.
So the key to remember is that essentially what is commonly said is that Skypiea was meant to take place shortly before the big end of the story.
Okay.
And legitimately, the story was not supposed to go on super long after Skypiea. So a lot of big seeds are planted, important seeds are planted in Skypiea. And so with that in mind... He takes his sweet time to refresh some of these. However, all right, I'm going to get this out of the way. Remember the bonfire scene? At the very beginning of them on the thing, they're dancing with all the animals. All right, there's a silhouette of Luffy. It's important. Won't tell you why. I honestly don't think it's... I think it's more coincidentally important. I think it's kind of a fan's piece. I don't think it's as... this is my hot take. Don't care about the silhouette. I know the connections that people have made with it. I'm not discrediting that. I think he was just drawing goofy dances, and I don't know if he had that intention back then. So I don't know if I want to give credence to that. However, there is plenty of stuff. Mantra. Stick that in the back. Mm-hmm. All right. Talks about devil fruits. Stick it in the back. Mm-hmm. All right. Archaeology, road poneglyphs, and you called them location and information poneglyphs. Right. That's how they're written in there. Take those.
In the back.
Yep. Yeah. Stick that all in the back of your head, because Skypiea, while it has those narrative themes that we talked about earlier, really is setting the stage for one of the bigger overarching things in One Piece, and that is the concept of inherited will in history and past events coming to fruition.
Inherited will.
So inherited will. We've talked about this.
We've
This
talked
is
about
where
this
we're going to
before.
start. Right. You'll see it more pop up. But when a character carries on the dream of another that came before, that's what inherited will is. And now Skypiea is starting to introduce the idea of history coming to fruit. Like
that was that 3-panel thing that I liked so much. Inherited will was introduced.
Yep. Yep. The Luffy fulfilled essentially what was the dream of 2 guys who lived 400 years ago and a dude who had just about given up on life on the surface. All right. So how do I dive into this? Moving forward, we're going to see more of that. We're going to see, as Oda starts to flesh out the history more, moving forward, we're going to start seeing how the failures of the past become tomorrow's successes.
Okay.
Almost unknowingly. Because Luffy doesn't necessarily... He doesn't know the backstory of Noland. He doesn't know that. He doesn't know any of that. All he knows is that the bell needs to be rung. And in doing so, he doesn't realize just how much healing he's doing. Because he doesn't quite understand the weight of what he's doing, yet he's doing it. Which becomes a thing where Luffy is like, in my effort to help people that I consider my friends, I am helping all these other people at the same time. I'm improving, these situations. And moving forward, again, as the history of the world comes to fruition, especially post time skip, once we start getting more information in bits and pieces on what's going on, there's a lot of failure in the past that the burden of the failure of people past is placed onto the current generation. And by the end of One Piece, we'll probably see the dreams of those long gone come to fruition through the people currently doing it. And I think that's the important thing that Skypiea really establishes. I think we start to see it in pieces earlier on, but I think that's where Skypiea really starts to take that idea, because you've got 2 groups of people who have been fighting for 400-ish years, all right, and they are carrying the weight of all their ancestors and all this centuries of conflict, and it's finally resolved because they heard the bell, they came to their peace, they figured it out. This is really hard to do.
Without doing any spoilers?
Without doing any major spoilers, because especially recently, we're starting to get more information on even more of the past of the world. Like, Oda's doing some serious lore bombs and lore drops, and the parallels between the past and the current day and what is yet to come has people theorizing about the end of One Piece as a story.
Right.
Based off of the lore that they've been getting, because they want to see if it's a cyclical story where it's like, it failed here, but it'll succeed now because they weren't the right ones to do it. Luffy is, that sort of thing. I think I'm doing this. I hope to God I've done this. I've said this correctly, but I think that's part of the thing that Skypiea contributes to massively. And then there's the little stuff that they touch upon. The silhouette, I'll give it to them. They bring back the sea stone prism. Okay. You get the mention that Roger showed up there, which is fun. But also it shows that Roger had been here. Why was Roger here? That's a good question. Why did Roger show up there? And then I think that's why Robin, being the archaeologist and getting such a focus on archaeology in this, actually helps that point.
Okay.
Because she's literally digging up the past.
Yes, she is.
And trying to figure out what happened. So
But I suspect for a more personal reason, not a world-building reason.
Well, she's doing it for her reason, but from a story perspective, it backs up this idea that we're planting this massive seed that history is very important, and those who don't understand history are doomed to repeat it. Well, if they don't understand their own history, if they don't learn their own history or learn the failures of those who came before, they will not succeed, type thing.
Gotcha.
Or they need to learn that so that they can succeed, or it'll be helpful for them to learn it to succeed.
There's a whole chicken egg thing going on here, both within the story with what you're describing, but also I'm just fascinated from a writing standpoint.
Yeah,
and like if I could sit down with Oda and just talk for a few minutes, because you have this concept of, we've talked over and over again, these things that have been planted in Skypiea that are going to come to fruition later on, and so I always look at that and I say, okay, wait a minute. Did he intentionally plant these things knowing he was going to do it? Or did he move the story forward and then started thinking, okay, where am I going with this? Let me look back at what I have here and then say, oh, I can take this, I can take this, I can take this, and I can expand it here.
I honestly think it's a mixture of both. I think he does. Yeah. I think he does both, because there's very obvious things where he's like, this is something that if it's like a brief mention, like if it's a brief thing, I think it's typically he thinks
it's a reach back.
It's a reach back.
Okay.
If it's heavily talked about, I think it's a plan.
Okay.
I think it's a plan.
That's fair.
I think that's even still. I don't think that's the sign of someone. I don't think that's like a detraction.
Oh,
I think the ability to look back and go, wait, I can expand upon, I can use that. I already wrote this. Right. I can use that. And then expand upon it in a chapter is incredible. I think that's incredible writing ability.
I'm fascinated by that because I've, the history of Rowling writing, knowing how her story was going to go and having the overall arc of it. Yeah. Is well known. I've read The Grapes of Wrath, and I've read Steinbeck's Diary of the Writing of the Grapes of Wrath, which is just fascinating. But you're reading a book about the writing process of a major American novel. I love stuff like that.
Oda has said that he knows how One Piece is going to end.
Right.
Now.
He probably doesn't have...
It's not 1-to-1 with his original vision, I guarantee, at this point.
Oh, no.
Because he's expanded the story so much. There's more characters to incorporate. There's more lore that he's built up. There's more stuff to...
Well, his growth as a writer.
Yeah, his growth as a writer.
Growth as an illustrator.
But I think he still has the same target in mind.
Oh,
he's
sure.
He's just modified it because he's as far as I know, only there's a handful of people who know, and one person was a hospital patient who was never going to live to see it.
Okay.
And so he visited them and told them how One Piece was going to end.
Okay.
Just kind of sweet.
That is sweet.
But it also, from a writing perspective, it shows that he has a goal. He has a target in mind. He has a destination in mind for the journey. Sure. So when he's planting some of these things, they have purpose. They have payoff. They'll come back into the story. And and my train of thought's gone.
That's okay.
I've been talking, but he knows what he's doing, and that's something I always appreciate. I think it's key when you're writing a story, really, is to know where you're going to end it.
Well, okay, yeah.
Because if you always have an end in mind, I think that's the downfall of television. I think it's the downfall of every television show, is when it goes past its natural endpoint, where the writers had an endpoint in mind. and the network wants to keep it going because it's doing well. And it's like, you went on far too long, and you pressed the writers too far, and they had to come up with new stuff, and then they didn't have an ending in mind because they didn't, they didn't plan to go past this point. Right. So, I think that's the downfall of any story is when you push it past its natural endpoint. Mm-hmm. And hopefully Oda gets to end his story on his terms, and we don't have to,
and walk away,
and
don't let new writers pick it up.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't not have to know what happens to Luffy 20 years after the story ends,
unless he writes a 20-year epilogue at the very end of the series. If he wants to, but that needs to be on his terms.
Exactly,
and that needs to be how he wants to end it.
Well, so listening to you, it brings up a whole nother thought on this whole writing process. Is how much does the writer's individual growth and maturity as they age and as they have their life experiences and have their loves and their heartbreaks and all of that, how much of that influences the course and development of the story?
Well, given how prominent Nami becomes and how important, around the time that he married a Nami actress from a One Piece live stage play.
Okay.
He did.
Yeah.
I think they're definitely part of it. He's also a father to, I believe, 2 daughters.
Okay.
So his writing of father-daughter relationships gets really good.
That's
really good. It's really good.
As a father of a daughter, it's what a delightful relationship, and so different from the relationship with sons. Yeah, completely different.
In terms of I want to go into. I would love to have more, but I think the big thing that for me, my big takeaway from Skypiea is all these seeds that he wants to plant in the story. And actually, so going back to where was that section that I highlighted? I believe that quote that I circled by Robin, or that Robin read: "Hold the truth in your heart, keep your mouth silent. We are the ones who weave history with the reverberations of the great bell." With the context of, I'll call it sins of the father.
Okay.
It's not technically sins of the father, but failures of the past.
Sure.
Become tomorrow's successes. Or tomorrow's triumphs. That would be better.
Okay.
And the failures of the past become tomorrow's triumphs. With that in mind, this took on a whole new meaning. This quote right here.
Gotcha.
We are the ones who weave history with the reverberations of the great bell. Is very intriguing to me. And
we're going to save this notebook and revisit this page in the future.
Yeah, we probably are. Specifically, we are the ones who we've. Yeah, because you get this. Luffy is almost freeing people as he goes from their past. He's freeing peoples from their history.
Well, he's doing it. Quite literally with just freeing Nami.
He freed Nami. He liberated Alabasta.
Right.
He's freeing these parties from a big, war that's going on. Right. He's bringing peace to that. And kind of inadvertently too, which is what makes Luffy Luffy. He's just like, haha, this person fed me, so now I am going to end World War III. You give that man a slice of bacon, he will do anything for you. It's just
oh, it's bacon. Come on, it's bacon.
But so, that's a big this is the first, and this is as far as I'm aware, this is the first time Luffy intervenes in a conflict that he truly doesn't give a shit about. His whole goal in this is just to ring that damn bell, right? Well, he's only going against people who stand in his way. He doesn't care if you're a Skypeian, technically. No. He doesn't care if you're this. And he's like, Conus and her father fed him and helped him. So he's like, I don't mind knocking some sense into NL while I'm up here because, my friends should be, free from your tyranny, free from your, false godhood, whatever, and just I'm gonna beat the crap out of you. But he doesn't focus on finishing the fight with Enel. Enel gets away.
I was amused. His goal was to go to the moon?
Yes, his goal was to go to the moon.
He must be more, at that point, lightning than human, because there's this whole lack of oxygen thing he's going to encounter.
Possibly.
You know.
There might be a cover story in the future. And by might be, there is a cover story in the future.
Well, okay.
And that's all I'll say about it.
To be totally honest with you, it occurred to me that would happen, because we get the cover stories of some of the villains, not all of the villains, but we get the cover stories of some of them.
But
that could be a really amusing cover story.
This is also one of the first times that Luffy kind of doesn't care about the follow up with the villain. He just kind of lets Enel go. Like, he doesn't really care what happens at that point. I mean, he didn't really care with Crocodile. He let Crocodile just get arrested, and that was about it.
Right.
But like, he didn't finish the job, essentially. He didn't ensure that the job was finished, right? He beat Enel out of the way, he hit the bell, and he was like, all right, I'm good. I'm falling back to the earth now, bye.
Get me my gold.
Yeah,
Let's go back down, yeah.
And also, he was pretty selfish about it. He was like, hey, Nami, let's steal this. Let's steal all the gold. Let's go! And it's like one of the first real times we see Luffy truly act like a pirate, like a pirate. Yes. And he's because
I noticed that
doesn't really care about what's going on the island. He doesn't really care about the Shandians. Doesn't really care about the Skypieans at this point.
Before the snake wakes up, load up what you can carry, get to the boat, and let's get out of here. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So it's interesting how carefree he is, but like, look at all the good that his actions have caused.
It's almost all of his unintended consequences are beneficial.
Yeah. So there's just so much going on there, and all because he wanted to ring a bell because someone decided to give him a house and food.
That might be a touch of an oversimplification, but I like it. It's good.
It is very much an oversimplification, but it.
So, golly.
Again,
for days,
kind of hard to talk. It's kind of hard to talk about because there's stuff that comes back, and there's going to be plenty more in the comments that they're going to drop because. It's so dense.
Thank you for continuing the spoiler warning at the top so that I don't read
Greatly appreciate it. And thank you for filling in what I miss in these, because genuinely it does help. I do not mind at all.
There are a ton of different themes in here that were touched on, free will, worship of a god, the colonialism, the expansion. And I'll be honest with you, for a week now, and I know we've been filming, I've been thinking to myself, what do I want to say about this? And even pulling up into your driveway.
Yeah, that was me.
I honestly didn't know what I wanted to say about this.
It was this morning when I really started to put my pieces together. I'm like, okay, we're talking. This is Skypeia's importance is in setting the groundwork for that concept of the history, not just repeating itself, but I'm going to coin this phrase: history's failures are tomorrow's triumphs. Is what?
Total and completely unrelated thought that's important, and if I don't write it down, I will forget it. So keep going. And I'm sorry for distracting you.
No, that's just my. I think that. For the overarching plot of One, because there's so many different aspects of One Piece that make it so good. You've got such amazing character designs. You have an intriguing overarching plot. And then you have these themes and ideas and concepts being explored through the arcs that those three, you've got the overarching plot, you've got the characters, and then you've got the themes and the narratives, and the concepts that are explored. But this entire thing, its foundation, I think, is Skypiea.
Okay.
As we move forward, we'll learn more.
I'm looking forward. I am looking forward to more.
Remember they talk about the 800-year gap.
Yep.
Robin talked about that. That plays into it. It's a lot of. I think that's Skypiea has a lot of worth, and I think it's just going to be a lot easier to talk about in retrospective when you're farther along.
When I'm farther along.
I think this would be a far easier video if you were up to date, because every video I watched in preparation for this episode is done with the benefit of hindsight.
Right.
And it's speaking to an audience that already has that benefit of hindsight.
Right.
I'm not doing that. I'm speaking to an audience with hindsight, and I'm hoping that what I'm saying is making sense.
It's making sense. I'm trusting it.
I'm hoping it makes sense to you, and I'm hoping it makes sense to everyone watching, because it's...
So this is the first arc of everything that I've read so far. This is the first arc where I've really been like, okay. And
I think a lot of people on their first read through,
right,
or their first watch through,
get this reaction.
I think a lot of people come back to it with more fondness. I honestly really don't, personally, but. It's not bad.
There's a ton of creativity in this, and I mentioned it earlier. I mean, it's a creative concept. There's a whole bunch of things that are just kind of fun.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder if he's more acquainted with LSD than maybe any of us suspect. That's a joke, It was creative. It was fun. It was entertaining. It's very clear that my interest in this is in the character development and the backstories and in the character growth. Because if you're going to write a story that's going to tug on the heartstrings to the point of making you tear up, you damn well better pay off with more character growth and development. And let's face it, the story does. And
it continues.
I believe it.
So next on the list.
Where do we go from here? That was my next question. Yes.
All right, so we are going to.
Yes.
We are going to, and I'm really excited because this is fun. So we are going to do the G8 filler arc. So G8 was it's an anime exclusive, so it's technically non-canon.
Right.
But it's really fun. It's a fan favorite. There's a fan favorite character from the anime, so we're gonna do the G8.
Okay.
We're gonna do G8. Hopefully we can knock that out quickly. Just a quick
well,
hitter.
okay, so
this is really fun. I like it. I'll rewatch it. It's fun.
Mama Peaches loves to binge watch TV shows. Loves it. Lives for it. And she'd keep me up till 4 o'clock every morning binge watching shows if I let her. She's been waiting for me to get to this point so that we can just sit and just indulge her binge watching little heart.
Yeah.
So
it's also not even that long.
It should be within a week.
Okay.
It should be 7 days and I'll be done with G8.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then after that...
And of course, now that I committed this to film, she's going to hold me to it.
Yeah.
I might even be done with G8 before you see this episode.
Yeah. The after that is Long Ring Longland.
Is that one Long Ring Longland?
Yeah, I believe that's how it's said. It's Long Ring Long. It might be Long Island. No, Long Ring Longland. Anyway, so there's that arc. That's in the manga? That's what happens next.
Is that what? So this is going to be starting about trio.
Yeah. Yep, it's this right here.
It's this right here?
Yep,
okay.
It's that right there. And the...
Oh, yeah, because it's the Straw Hat Theater. We get down and we get, and then suddenly we're at Straw Hat Theater and I'm like, what the hell is this? I think that was just a little
gag thing he did.
Because we got the Admiral riding his bike on the ocean. Or is that on the shore next to the ocean?
No, that's on the ocean. Remember when we watched the video and you were like, that man's riding a bike on water?
I do remember that. That was
animated.
Gotcha.
How cool is that?
All right, so we start with Straw Hat Theater. No, that is actually really cool.
Yeah, we're at that point. Long Ring is divisive, to say the least.
Really?
I enjoy it, honestly. I hated it in the anime. It was extended in the anime.
Okay.
I was really surprised when I read the manga and found out that it's not that long of an arc, and it's really fun.
Okay.
Every time I reread it in the manga, I actually really enjoy it.
Okay.
But then after that is the one I've been waiting for. It's Water 7 and Enies Lobby, and I'm so excited! I'm so excited!
Getting closer.
Oh, we're so close!
All
And
right.
then it's just, and then after that, it's so good! Ah! Hurry up! I can't wait to talk about.
5 years of teaching literature to this young man, and I never got that reaction from anything.
Can't freaking wait! Gonna be so good! So good! The thumbnail for Enies Lobby is going to be incredible.
It's going to be that face from
Nope.
this video. It's going to be...
Nope! Anyway, yeah, that's the plan. G8, and then
All right.
we'll get back to the manga. Again, long reading shouldn't be that long
Okay.
of a read. Ironically, I think there's some stuff in between Long Ring and Water 7. And then we're gonna have to figure out how we want to do. So the Water 7 Enies Lobby is technically 3 things. So there's Water 7, which is it's a mini pre-arc.
Okay.
Enies Lobby, which is the meat
Okay.
of that storyline.
Okay.
And then there's what's called post Water 7,
Oh, okay.
which is essentially post Enies Lobby, and it's just the wrap up.
So, okay. So you've got prologue, epilogue. You've got story. Yeah, no.
I don't know if we want to do that as one big, or if we're gonna.
Let's
we
just
might
see how
want
it
to
goes.
break. Yeah, we'll see,
We'll
how,
just
it
see how it
goes.
goes.
But yeah, I'm excited. I hope you guys are excited. Leave your thoughts down below. Like, comment, subscribe if you're excited.
I look forward to your comments. I really do. I tried to read all of them. I tried to respond to them as they, come rolling in.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for the spoiler warnings. And what did I not say? It's one thing everybody's really good at. If I don't say something that you want to hear, you'll let me know.
Yep.
I appreciate it.
They are very good at that.
Yes, they are.
That's not a bad thing.
No, it is not. Not at all.
It's not a bad thing. It's very fun to read.
All right. So thanks for tuning into this episode of Pork Chops, Rice, and Peaches.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye.